Okay, today we're going to be making a smooth coil pot. So what you need to do first is to actually roll out a slab of clay just like we did with our coil cylinders. You'll have to have your 2 yardsticks on each side, your piece of clay in the center, your canvas, then you'll put another piece of canvas on top. You'll roll out your slab, making sure that it's even and smooth. Once you get to that part, then you're going to move on to cutting your base out. I suggest just using the bottom of a round container. You're just going to place it on top. You're going to use your needle tool. You'll cut around your piece. You can probably work with your table or your group, and you could probably roll out a couple of these at one time to save time and space. So you're going to get one piece like this, and then you're going to transfer it onto your piece of canvas or onto your Lazy Susan. Now that you have your slab piece rolled out and cut out, you're ready to start building your coil pot. You need to roll out a couple coils, probably one, and then you need to score the edge of your slab first. So I'm going to take the rib tool, the serrated rib, and go ahead and score the base part where I'm going to be attaching my coil. Because you're not going to attach it on the outer edge, you're going to attach it on the top part of your slab. You're also going to take your coil and you're going to add score marks onto your coil, the whole length of your coil. So you just need to do it really quickly. Then I'm going to add slip to both pieces. Remember, you don't want to rub out your score marks. So I'm just going to add some slip to my piece. Be careful not to add too much slip. Okay, then what I'm going to do is add my coil on. I'm actually going to take part of it and pinch it kind of at an angle so it's a little bit thinner when I attach it down to my piece, because when you put your coil on the other side it's going to overlap and it'll have a nice smooth overlap. I'm going to go ahead and attach my coil onto my base. I'm going to take the excess off. I'm then going to take this piece and kind of pinch it a little thin so that way it makes a nice overlap transition onto my piece. Then what you need to do is either with your wooden tool or with your thumb. I prefer to use my thumb, but you can use the wooden tool. You need to pull the edge of the base up to your coil. This makes sure that your base is attached to your coil so your coil doesn't pop off. We did this with our coil cylinder as well. So you just need to do that all the way around the outside part of your base. And then what you're going to do is go ahead and do the same thing on the inside. You're actually going to pull your coil down to the inside. I'll use the wooden tool to do that. So that way your coil is completely smoothed in. The next thing I'm going to do is actually pinch my coil up just a little bit because I want my walls to be a 1/4 inch thickness. I don't want them to be short and fat. I need them to be a 1/4 inch thick all the way around. So I'm going to try to even it out. You can do this by pinching with your index finger and your thumb and then rubbing your other index finger over the top of your piece. You're going to smooth it all out. Make sure it's clean. That's why the Lazy Susans come in handy. And then what you want to do is get ready to add your next coil. Once you add your second coil, you need to start checking your template and making sure that your piece matches your template. So I need to actually take my piece and tilt it out just a little bit further when I add my second coil, because you're going to need to shape to your template. Okay, I have attached the second coil on. It's very important that every coil from this point forth, you're checking with your template. So we showed you earlier how to make your template. You need to match it up to your piece. So the bottom of your template needs to slide all the way to the bottom of your piece. You need to make sure your pot is starting to follow the curves of your piece. You need to make sure your piece is at a 90-degree angle so it sits flat on your table. You can't just check it in one spot. You need to check it in multiple spots as you turn your piece to make sure that it comes outward and it's following your design. A lot of you will start making your pots and either A, they're going to be too narrow and they don't fit your curve, or they're going to be too wide and you're going to have problems. This is how you can make sure you don't have any problems with your piece. So again, every coil you attach, after you've attached it, you need to make sure that it fits the curves of your pot. Okay, once you get a little bit further with your piece, you're still checking to make sure it matches your template, and you need to really make sure that it's even and level. Then you really need to focus on smoothing it out. Remember, this is a smooth coil pot base, so you really have to make sure you're using your rib tools and you're smoothing your coils on the inside as well as the outside this time. The last project, we smoothed the coils on the inside. So you need to be using your rib tool. I suggest using the metal rib. It works the best, especially when you're scraping and blending in your coils. Remember, when you're scraping on the inside, you support with the other hand on the outside. So you're just going to scrape your piece just to make sure it's nice and smooth on the inside. I always do the inside first, and then I'll go back and check and make sure the outside I'm supporting now on the inside with my left hand and using my rib with my right hand. If you're a lefty, you would just reverse these steps. But you really want to make sure everything is staying smooth. Every day you should be checking every coil that you add on. It needs to be smoothed out as well once you get to this step. Otherwise, cracks will start forming and you'll have an entire piece that you'll have to start over again. Okay, so now I'm getting to the point where I'm no longer building outward. I'm going to have to start bringing my pot inward. And that gets to be really tricky and it's kind of complicated. So I'm going to show you some tricks that I've learned that make it easier. Just make sure that your template matches up to everything. Keep an eye making sure everything is smooth before you start this step. One trick one of my teachers taught me was to always bring your pot to your coil. So you're not going to be setting your coils on first. You're actually going to take your coil and put it where you want the pot to go in, because this curve right here gets a little complicated. So we actually have to push the clay this way to get it to go in to get our curve. So I'm going to take my coil. I've already scored and slipped everything. I'm going to push my piece to my coil. So I'm going to overcorrect just a little bit. It's easier to go outward with your project than it is to go inward. So you want to actually overcorrect just a little bit. So I'm pushing my clay to my coil versus my coil setting on my clay. So I'm going to keep pushing and lining my pot up. This is how you bring your pot inward when coiling. You also, when you're attaching your coils, they're going to go on the inside edge of this. They're not going to go on that upper top. It's on the inside edge when you're adding your coil to make it go inward. And then I always rock my thumbs forward as well and pull my clay inward. That's also going to help you bring your pot inward. Keep compacting your clay down, get it all nice and smooth, and then you'll check your template. I've just attached that first coil that goes inward, so I'm just going to check with my template to make sure that it matches that curve right there, and it does. So you just want to keep checking and then keep adding a coil the same way I just showed you. You push your clay to your coil, as well as you go ahead and check it with the template after you've blended it in, and then you go ahead and start with your next coil and you make sure that everything matches up correctly. Okay, now I've gotten to the point where I've pushed in my pot far enough and I need to actually start on this part here, which is the neck and the lip. So I've actually got the shoulder built in here. We have the foot, the body, the shoulder, just as a review. And I've gone ahead and slipped and scored my two pieces, and I'm going to show you how to actually make this part right here. So in the last segment, or last part, we were building on the inside edge. Now we're going to start building a little bit on the top outer edge of your pot. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pre-scored and slipped coil, and I'm going to add it on the top outer edge instead of on the top inner edge. I'm going to go ahead and press it in and get it laid on here. I'm no longer pushing the pot to my coil. I'm actually putting my coil onto my pot because we want it to go outside instead of inside. I'm going to go ahead and blend my outside edge first. You can use the wooden tool as well. Sometimes it's faster. Or you can use your hands. Okay, I just added that one top coil, and you can see how my template matches up. You just want to make sure you check all the way around that your template matches up for your neck piece, and you're going to continue adding the coils in the same fashion. Just check after every single one because you don't want to tip your lip out too far. So I'll go ahead and finish this piece off, and then I'll show you how to clean it up. Okay, now we have our finished face. We have the lip, the neck, the shoulder, the body, and the foot, and it's all been mostly smoothed out. Now what we need to do is smooth the entire inside, outside, and get it perfectly smooth, because the next step we're actually going to be burnishing, and that'll be another video that you'll be watching of how to burnish your pot. But I would start with the metal rib first, because that's going to take the bulk of any of your dents or marks out. Make sure you use the rounded side, and you always bend it between your thumb and your other fingers. And then just start at the bottom and start scraping lightly to get all of your rough marks, any of your finger marks, any little bump or indent or ridge that you have on your pot. And you'll do that all over the whole pot. Remember to support the inside if it's on a soft, weak area. And you'll continue scraping around the whole pot until you get the bulk of all your marks off of your pot. Then what I would suggest you would do is move on to a rubber rib if you have it. Dip your rib into the water. Use the rounded beveled side, because there's a beveled side and then there's a flat side. You want to use the beveled side. Curve it between your fingers just like you did with the other rib, and then you're going to scrape on your pot, and this is going to smooth all those rough particles down, and it's going to make your pot really nice and smooth and ready to be burnished.